Okay, so this is an Android phone, this is an Android phone, and this is an Android phone. And so today, I'm going to be doing an Android phone rant. Welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. On this channel, you'll learn how to be creative, and I'll teach you the tools you need to create. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to help the channel create more content like this. So I've been a long time Android phone user. I've been using Android since 2009, and my very first Android phone was the Droid Aries, or known as the HTC Hero in other parts of the world. And the phones that I have here today are the Moto G, the original Moto G. I have the excellent HTC One, the original, which is still my favorite design Android phone. I love this phone. And then we had my workhorse, the LG G5, where I actually created nearly 1,000 videos. This was my main camera and video editing phone. And now my current Android phone right here, this is the Moto G. So this is a budget phone. I got this at Walmart for around $150. And so as you can see here, I've been using Android for a while, and I have all types of Android phones. Everything from the very low budget Android phones to, at the time, these were like the flagship Android phones. And today's rant is something that I've talked about before in the past, and specifically I did a video on it on planned obsolescence. So if you wanted to see that video, you could check that out after this video. I'll put that in the description area below. And so the main problem that I have with Android phones and just smartphones in general, and I'm not leaving Apple out of this, I'll be talking about Apple iPhone at the end of this video, is the fact that phones are really designed, especially nowadays, to actually be obsolete. And the reason that I could say that is because I have been using these phones for a long time. I have a variety of different phones in all different price ranges. And even with my budget phone right now, I knew this was going to have problems performance-wise, but it's a consistent thing throughout all Android phones. And the consistent thing is that over a period of 2 to 3 years, the performance gets worse. And it's really not the hardware, but it's the software. And the same thing happens with Apple iPhone as well, although not as bad as Android phones. But I have been seeing that even more modern Apple iPhones, they don't last as long because the manufacturers are purposely sending you updates that will slow down your phone and eventually get to a point where it's unusable. And if you don't believe me, then just look at all your current phones. See that over time, especially Android phones, you notice the performance suffers. And that even though you don't use your phone that much, I really do not use this phone for all the hardware that is utilized, or that's needed. So let me give you an example. So this phone right here, I use the LG G5 a lot, and my older Android phones had a lot more apps on there. So this one was my entire video editing studio. So I use Cyberlink Power Director. So I use this phone heavily, and I use many other apps on this phone because this was my entire production studio. But fast forward now to the phone I'm using now, I really don't use many things on my phone. So what I use on my phone nowadays is I use the YouTube app, I use the email, I use Netflix, I use a lot of chat apps, mainly Slack or like Google Chat, so then I could do work. And beyond that, I really don't use it for anything else. Every now and then I might play a few games or retro games, but my usage of the phone hasn't changed and it's not heavy. Whereas the actual performance with every single software update, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it doesn't matter if it's a budget $150 phone or if it was the flagship Android phone, the same thing occurs. And then another thing occurs is as I get these software updates, I have weird problems. Like for my HTC One, I can't turn off the phone. I have to wait until it dies. So I can't do anything. Even after I put a brand new version of Android on there, still the same problem back then. And then with the last flagship Android phone I had with the LG G5, after a certain point, it just turns off by itself. Mainly when the percentage of battery gets low, but then it's random. Sometimes it's at 20 something percent it turns off, and sometimes it's even at 50 something percent and it turns off. Really unexplainable, and the only difference with all of these is the software. And that's absolutely horrible. This is really bad for the consumers, great for the businesses. I understand, they want to release a new phone every few years and they definitely want you to upgrade. And so the only way they could do that is to make sure that their software becomes obsolete, or basically your phone becomes obsolete through the software that you have. For serious YouTubers, check out TubeBuddy, the premier tool news at geekoutdoors.com. Get more done today by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below. And then the final thing that I want to talk about this, and this is definitely related to the Apple iPhone, is this right to repair. If you don't know what right to repair is, it's basically you being able to repair the hardware that you have or even the software on your own. And if you notice, phones nowadays are not as easy to repair on your own. They're not as flexible. The Apple iPhone being the worst. You practically cannot fix things on your own without breaking something, okay? And they really want you to send it back to the manufacturer. And so in this case, you really don't have as much control over things that you bought. You own this phone, but really you don't. The manufacturer owns this phone because they control it through software and building it in a way that you really can't fix it, without them or without buying a new phone. And then other things that all these manufacturers have done, and I would definitely say Apple iPhone leads this, is giving you less and less features. Let's say, for example, that you wanted to replace your batteries. So back then, you could do that with an Android phone. You could replace the batteries like what I have here. Before, you could just remove the back. You had things like a micro SD card slot. You had things like a headphone jack. And don't believe all the marketing hype that manufacturers like Apple and all these other Android companies are telling you that the headphone jack, is going to take up space in here, because even with my original Droid Aorus, which was puny compared to our modern phones, had a headphone jack, had a micro SD card slot, and I could remove the battery. But nowadays, with modern phones, I would include practically all Android phones nowadays, they're more like the Apple iPhone, where it's harder to do anything on your phone in terms of, fixing it or replacing it or having flexibility. And at the same time, they are definitely not performing as well as they used to as the years go by. And the reason why a lot of Android manufacturers follow Apple, because, well, Apple knows how to make money. And whatever Apple does, the industry follows. And so that's why a lot of times when you see features that are missing, Apple would usually be the first one to do it. And then manufacturers like Samsung follow. And even the Samsung, who used to provide you everything, nowadays, their modern phones, they don't have a headphone jack in some cases. And I think even in the flagship, they don't have a headphone jack. Micro SD card slots are slowly but surely disappearing from Samsung phones. And it's not going to get any better. And even like other budget manufacturers, Android phones like OnePlus, whenever they released their phone, they had a lot of features, great price, very flexible, but even they have removed a lot of those features. And I would probably definitely say that over time, even their performance has gotten worse. And so this is definitely something that I really hate with these phones nowadays, where they are planned for you to have to upgrade, whether you want to or not. Even if you're like somebody like myself, I really do not use my phone much when it comes to the hardware that it requires. The apps that I use is very simple. But now my performance of my Android phone is worse now than when I bought it, and that's really, really ridiculous. And also, I really can't repair these things on my own, I don't have a lot of flexibility. And so if you have experienced the same thing with this planned obsolescence, whether you own an Android phone or an Apple iPhone, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you wanted to see more of my geek gear reviews and my hardware reviews, I do have an entire playlist as well. I'll leave that in the description area below. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're a creative geek like me, and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators group.